Hi, this is MarqueeCrew, and I'm going to show you how to remove vowels. We're going to solve a community post and solve it like an ace. What we'll start with are the Alteryx tool palette. Probably in your favorites, you're going to have most of the tools that you need. The post itself gave a request or a label that said regex, regular expressions. Remove all vowels from a string unless it is the first letter of a word. And that's about all the instructions that were given to us. So the big picture in thinking about the problem is A, E, I, O, U, and Y could be the first letter or not. There could be multiple words, so I can't just use a simple string function saying, give me the first letter, give me the second letter, third letter. Case sensitivity. I'm going to have to allow for uppercase and lowercase in what we're doing. So in that example, universal control becomes universal control mushed together, or you can do it with Alteryx. What I want to point out that the first letter doesn't matter of the word. That is the key concept here that's going to help you. The first letter of the word, you're going to always do the same thing with. You're always going to keep it. It's the next letters that you're going to start removing vowels from. In Alteryx, if you go to your favorites, it probably looks pretty much like mine. I've added a few tools in there, maybe aren't in yours, but not many. And I'm able to solve most problems with these tools. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first set up some test data. I'm going to talk to you about an approach and then how to validate and test. And this is where you get those extra little bits of insight as to how to make your workflows APA, Analytic Processing Automation, ready. So I'm going to set up some data. I've added words you and Marquee and MarqueeCrew to the data. You can add as many tests as you'd like. And what I have is an input data column and expected results column. And so my approach, I may have one or many words, each needing to be parsed. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the words into their own fields. So I'm going to use a text to column tool to break apart what could be a sentence into its component words. I'm going to tokenize this by word. I'm going to skip the first character, and I'm going to use a substring function to eliminate uppercase and lowercase A, E, I, O, U, and Y's. And then I'm going to put the whole field back together, all the words back together. I'm going to use a record ID in this process to help me along the way. So the first tool that we add is apply record ID, and that is really just the record ID, and I've got it set as an int32, which could hold tens of thousands of words. And I'm going to drop down to a select where pretend that this data had lots of columns. We don't need all that data. In fact, we don't need their expected results or our expected results or any other field other than the record ID and the input data. So I've unselected expected results, and for good measure, I unselected the unknown fields. And when I take a look at the data, let's run this workflow. When I look at the data that's coming through this select, on input, I had 3 fields, now I have 2 fields, and I just have the starting point. And I take that into a text to columns. Now the text to columns isn't one of my favorites. It's part of the parse family. And the text to columns, I'm going to split the input data. And my delimiter here, I made it a /s. Now, a /s is a regular expression term for white space. If I wanted to, I could have just made that a space, just put a spacebar space in there. It's just not so easy to see and talk about as the /s. I'm splitting to rows. I don't know how many columns I'd need, so I'm going to split to rows, and that will allow me on output to see this record ID, and I've got ground and then record ID control. So each space causes a new record to be generated with only the one word per record. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the formula tool. And in the formula tool, when I'm building a formula, I like to see the input data that's coming into that formula displayed here. And then I can make good use of the data preview up here. The data preview is telling me that I'm going to end up with GRND. But how did I get there? I'm going to use a cursor, and I'm scrolling up to be able to make this larger and easier to read. I said the first character doesn't matter because I'm going to always accept the first character. So that's left of the input data 1. And why don't I just remove this for a second, and you'll see that becomes the letter G. Now, after that, I'm going to put in this longer expression, which is actually 2 expressions. And what I did first was I used a substring function to say, let's delete that, so we see what that's doing. So the substring input data, comma 1, that means start after the first character, and it's going to go return to me all the rest of the letters. So now this is the area that I'm going to start substituting on. And the next thing I'm going to do is replace char. So in replace char, what's happening is I'm giving the letters A-E-I-O-U-Y and A-E-I-O-U-Y lowercase as the letters that I want to get rid of in any order. So these characters are the ones I want to change, and I want to change them to nothing. So when I push this through the output, I'm getting ground without the O and the U, control without the O's. And so I'm getting rid of those letters. In the word U, I kept the first letter, Y, and I got rid of the O and the U. So I've now gotten through the replacement. Now I'm going to use the summarize tool. And in the summarize tool, I'm going to group by the record ID, and then I'm going to concatenate the results. And in concatenate results, down at the bottom of the configuration screen, we now have concatenate properties. And I'm going to put in here a separator, and the separator is actually a space. You can't see it. I would like to be able to put in the /s, but it's going to take me literally for that. So I'm putting in the space here. And when I do that, then I'm now getting from one record of ground, I'm getting ground control. Now I've got the concatenate results coming through, I'm going to go into a join. In the join, I'm going to join by record ID. I'm going to eliminate the right duplicate record ID, and I'm going to rename the concatenated results as my actual results. Now when I take a browse here, I see what looks like the same results. It looks right, but do I know that it's right? I've created a way to tell if it's right by putting in a message tool. And the message tool will look to see that my expected results are not equal to the actual results, will result in an error message. And I've actually put together an error message here that's readable. It'll tell me record ID. It will convert the record ID to a string and show me the record ID. That the expected was the expected results, but my actual is my actual results. And what I'd like to show you here in this results panel, which I'm going to make just a little bit bigger, there are no errors. Well, I come to my test data, and let's just say that I wanted the results of U to be YOU. That's what I think it should be. And I run the workflow. I'm getting an error message here. Record ID 3, expected YOU, but it's actually Y. So I can go and put error messages into the job to be able to warn me if I'm on my 1 millionth record, hey, something didn't work. I'm going to return this back to the letter. Actually, let's keep it. Let's keep it as YOU. We'll have an error there. Run it. And what then happened was I removed the record ID from the data, and then I used the filter, which said the same thing as the message, which is the expected results equal the actual results. And all of the good stuff went up here where it says expected equals actual. And if you don't know how to do that, you can double click on a connector and you can actually name the connection, expected equals actual. And here, the expected does not equal actual. I can show you the record that was at fault. Again, if I had it correct in my expected results, YOU, I would have 0 records in my error data. The expected does not equal actual. I thank you for watching, and let's solve the problem in Alteryx. Thank you for sticking around. As a bonus for those who are watching, I wanted to show you how it's solved with a regular expression. So, as solved using regex, I was able to solve this whole problem in one statement. And the way that I'm able to do that in one statement in a regular expression is by using this very tricky /b. A slash lowercase b is a word boundary. A slash uppercase b becomes something different. It becomes not a word boundary. So when you're the first letter of a word, the thing that comes before you is a word boundary, whether it's a comma or a space. So when I'm looking, or just the beginning of a field. So when I say /b, I'm saying I'm not the first character of the word. So now I could have many words, and I'll be able to operate on just the not first letter. So that's what that /uppercase b is doing. And then The next character here is a bracket. And this square bracket contains a set of letters. And that set of letters are the things that I'm looking for. So anything that is A-E-I-O-U that isn't the first letter, I'm going to replace it with nothing. So there's one regular expression. When I press run, will actually get me all the same results as all of these tools combined. Cheers, have a great day.